Hello everyone, my name is Amal Asim and the key paper that I'll be reviewing today is titled Single Shell Carbon Nanotubes of 1 nanometer diameter. The authors of the paper are Aijima and Toshinari Ichihashi, and the total citations of the paper are 10,849 to date. And this paper is an extremely important paper when it comes to how nanotubes were first discovered and to their and for their many applications that we see now. So um, I'll go start with a little bit of background. So this paper was published in 1993. However, it was in 1991 that IDEMA first observed tubular carbon nanostructures, which were later termed as multi-walled carbon nanotubes. So what he found was that he found carbon needles which ranged from 4 to 30 nanometers in diameter and up to 1 millimeter in length. And this was confirmed using transmission electron micrography and microscopy. And each of the needles comprised, and it was found that each of the needles comprised of coaxial tubes of graphite sheets, ranging in number from 2 to about 50. And so, um, however, and this was produced using a technique called arc discharge evaporation method, which I'll be discussing in the upcoming slide. However, so the technique and how the results that we got from this experiment, a shortcoming of those was that they produced a wide range of nanotubes, which were of different sizes, of different morphologies. And so, to properly understand the properties of this new form of carbon, it was important that we had carbon nanotubes which had well-defined morphologies, a proper length, a thickness, and a number of concentric shells. So we needed a type of constant. And um, so first I'll be discussing the arc discharge evaporation technique. So this technique essentially it's a method in which a graphite rod acting as a negative cathode and a positive anode is placed. They're placed a few millimeters apart, and they're evaporated using a high current to form carbon products, which is then deposited around the chamber walls or over the cathode substrate. So this is the general methodology, and the gases used can differ from experiment to experiment. And so I'll start with the methodologies that we used in this paper. So what they used was that IDEMA used an arc discharge chamber, which was filled with a gas mixture of 10 torr methane and 40 torr argon. And then they had two vertical thin electrodes, which were installed in the center of the chamber. So the cathode, namely the lower electrode, had a shallow dip to hold a small piece of iron during the evaporation. And the arc discharge was generated by operating a DC current of 200 amperes at 20 volts between the electrodes. And so it was extremely important. All three of the components, iron, methane, and argon, they were extremely critical for the synthesis of these nanotubes. And basically, we also know that iron is a catalyst, which has been described um, for carbon fiber production. And for this experiment, transmission electron microscopy, the images revealed they indicated the presence of these carbon nanotubes, which were curved and tangled together. And so these are the results from the paper. So the first one, we can see these electron micrographs. They show bundles of single shell carbon nanotubes, and they're curved and entangled. And the dark blobs that you see are cementite particles, which were used to assist the tubule growth. And we can see a terminated tubule is indicated by an arrow here. And similarly, we see um, uh, two terminated carbon nanotubes of different diameters and length in this micrograph as well. And so another image, so basically they plotted the histogram to look at the frequency of single shell nanotubes with different diameters, and a diameter of approximately 1 nanometer was what was concluded, and a broad diameter distribution was reported between 0.7 and 1.65 nanometers. So, so now we'll come at the many uses of carbon nanotubes. So they've been reported to have a great deal of variety in terms of properties, the mechanical properties, electrical properties, optical properties. And so I'll be listing some of them in the upcoming slides. So the mechanical properties, so carbon nanotubes have high tensile strength, they're very stiff, and they are being used as like in polymer and carbon nanotube. They're composites being made, which exhibit much better mechanical properties, and they're also suitable for the application as probe tips for scanning microscopy. And there has also been the carbon nanotubes show promising role to modify and enhance the characteristics of the conventional construction materials such as concrete and steel as well. And so in sensors, due to their small size and large surface area and high sensitivity, they are currently being used in a lot of biosensors. So they can serve as scaffolds for immobilization of different biomolecules. And functionalized carbon nanotubes can also efficiently cross biological barriers and they have many applications currently. They're being used for drug delivery, and they have many potential uses in biomedical sciences. So other properties include its electrical properties, and a very interesting use I found was of these tubes being used due to their high electrical conductivity. There are companies which are using them in anti-static packaging. And also photovoltaic properties. So they also have photovoltaic properties. Since the single-walled carbon nanotubes are ideal as thin-film photovoltaics because they absorb light across a wide range of wavelengths, and a study reported polychiral carbon nanotubes for this purpose. So another interesting use of carbon nanotubes was made in 2007. So the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, they designed the first fully functional radio from a single carbon nanotube. And so according to them, it uses carrier waves in the commercially relevant 40 to 400 megahertz range and both frequency and amplitude modulation. And they were able to demonstrate successful music and voice reception using this one single carbon nanotube. And so, despite their many uses, we have a great many challenges, two of which I've listed here. So there's still poor understanding of how these carbon nanotubes they actually work, and so controlling them is extremely difficult, particularly because of course, their size. And there have been differing studies, some reporting that there are no cytotoxic effects, but they have been reported. Some studies do report cytotoxic effects of carbon nanotubes, and of course, this needs to be investigated further before we can make use of these on a wider scale. And so this brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.